The Witcher 4 has officially been confirmed. CD Projekt Red is working on a new title in the Witcher franchise. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of information out there about The Witcher 4 just yet. The game could introduce us to some new monsters in the continent that'll draw inspiration from different folk tales. That's what many impatient fans have speculated. Here's everything we know about how The Witcher 4 could introduce new monsters. First off, what do we really know about The Witcher 4? So, just as we mentioned, CD Projekt Red is developing a new Witcher saga, which of course has left fans speculating what the new installment will bring. There's been a decent amount of discussion on who the new main character could be or when the new story will take place. However, another thing we can't help but wonder is what new creatures we're going to see in the game. The identity of these monsters depends on when and where the new Witcher saga will happen. After all, a lot of the monster species were mostly either endangered or extinct by the time Geralt was active, and so it makes sense that a new Witcher game taking place in the past could even include a bigger number of scary monsters. On the other hand, if the game's timeline is set after the events of the trilogy, we could end up seeing more self-aware but nonetheless terrifying monsters. Secondly, what if the game happens after the conjunction of the spheres? We're just going to assume for now that the new addition to the Witcher series will be set before Geralt's timeline, and we'll probably see more monsters on the continent. It'd be really interesting if it takes place in the time right after the conjunction of the spheres, considering how this was the time when creatures from separate dimensions got trapped on the continent. The developers behind the game could even decide to bring in monsters that were thought to be rare or totally extinct during the Witcher trilogy. Another thing that could happen is that monsters from The Witcher 3, such as Sylvans or Hymns, could show up more often in a Witcher game set thousands of years in the past. They could even decide to add totally new monsters. A lot of the monsters in The Witcher are derived from Western folktales, and there's still a whole lot more they could use too. The Nuckalabby from Scottish folklore is a terrifying demon who's been said to spread disease and famine wherever it goes. Its physical form is shown to us as a tall horse with a human-like figure sticking out of its back. Looking at the kind of power it has, it would definitely be a challenge to defeat it in the game. Another potential creature we could get to see in The Witcher would be the very familiar goblins from pre-existing European and British legends. Admittedly, they aren't quite as horrific as the Nuckalabby. They're actually said to be more mischievous than scary. As such, they could pave the way for one of The Witcher 4's more morally gray adventures. Next up, what if The Witcher 4 is set after Geralt's story? Another thing that could happen is The Witcher 4 might be set sometime after the events of The Witcher 3. In that case, there'd be way less monsters in the world. However, chances are there's going to be more sentient creatures concealed in plain sight. Just like, for example, Regis the higher vampire, some monsters know how to pass themselves off as humans, letting them live within the safety of city walls. If that's the case, creatures such as werewolves, demons, and others could easily integrate into society, temporarily at least. Besides that, there's also plenty of opportunity to bring in artificial monsters. Assuming that magic being casually used is still a thing in the Witcher universe, it wouldn't be too crazy to believe that magic could make new monsters, from strong hybrids to even more mutated humans, such as the Witchers. Generally, expectations for this game are very high, considering how many different ways the developers could choose to take it. The Witcher 4 could turn out to be a wholly different experience from the original trilogy. The monsters by themselves could make the upcoming entry feel like a completely different world, giving players a totally new outlook on the continent. This would be even more heightened if CD Projekt Red chose to explore regions away from the continent and perhaps even bring in monsters from non-Western folktales. After all, it is fiction. Who's to say you can't have monsters from, for example, Asian mythology? It's already a make-believe world. The developers just have to make it cohesive. For now, the new Witcher game is still nowhere near being released, so all the fans can do for now is to come up with theories and dream. Next, in other news, what if there were more Witchers? With rumors flying wild ahead of the release, some people want more monsters, while others want the in-game world to be even more populated with monster hunting Witchers instead. Instead, CD Projekt Red's latest addition to the Witcher series, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt, launched the franchise to a new level of popularity, giving it both commercial and critical success that the prior entries didn't quite pull off. Even though they were still popular and adored by fans, you could say it had a cult following. The game's release was a good one, but it's hard to deny that things have been kind of dead for the franchise since 2016. While the 3 main entries in the franchise till now have proven to be a good trilogy, players weren't satisfied and wanted more installments, and couldn't wait for more news on a new game. Fortunately, they didn't have to wait too long. That news arrived in March 2022, 7 years after the last entry came out, that yes, a new game is on its way. This game is going to mark the beginning of a new saga, leading to lots of questions from fans about the game's time setting and protagonist. We got confirmation that a new Witcher school, the School of the Lynx, will be brought into the game. This makes it obvious that the new game is going to have some big changes. One of those changes could be populating the world with more Witchers, which would undoubtedly affect the upcoming game. Next up, what if Geralt had more friends? Well, the prior games did have more than a single Witcher. There weren't that many. The majority of the game would go by with just Geralt. Some of Geralt's Witcher friends would make appearances every now and then. This actually worked quite well for the story and his character, and showed how it was tough for him to form attachments, and he'd rather work alone most of the time. It also highlighted how Witchers weren't exactly adored by their societies. They'd often face isolation and ostracization. That may be the case for Geralt, but who knows if all Witchers are like that? Maybe a few of them out there love hanging out with other Witchers. It might be good to switch things up and put in a whole bunch of Witchers for the upcoming game. The tagline during the announcement for the game was "A new saga begins." As you can imagine, that opens up a lot of possibilities. It could mean anything. It could even mean that there'll be a big time jump between the events of The Witcher 3 and the new entry. The story could be set many years into the future, or maybe it'll be a prequel. Only time will tell. It's probable that the upcoming Witcher title will shift away from Geralt and his companions. But then that leaves us with a new question. Who will be the protagonist in this game? Maybe there'll be more than one. It would certainly be an interesting route to take. Lastly, what if there's more Witcher schools? There could be some focus on the School of the Lynx, and this could open up the possibility of there being even more new schools. Having more schools could be an excellent opportunity to grow the world of The Witcher and expand the rich world of the game with even more Witchers from several different schools. For many fans, this is one of their favorite things from the series' lore. Think about it. With more Witchers, it could give players the chance to create a selection to act as companions to their protagonist. Or maybe they could customize their own Witcher as the main character and choose the school they're a part of. It'd be like their own personal avatar. They could get to choose their equipment and appearance. It would definitely be something new. Even if new schools aren't brought in, there's already enough established Witcher schools that could be explored with better detail. There's a whole variety of Witcher philosophies that would range from the School of the Wolf. This is the one that players have mostly been familiarized with until now. This would be a good way to present players with something original as compared to the previous games. We all know the Witcher games have their fair share of interesting and unique characters, such as Yennefer, Ciri, and Dandelion. The Witchers are the ones carrying the game on their backs, letting players see how a bigger community of Witchers could interact with not only each other, but also the society would be a really welcome change of pace from Geralt's adventures as a lone wolf. That's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.